Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Welcome to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studio inside Max 6 Conscious Workspace in Tempe, Arizona, where we help build businesses and connect you with the right people. I'm your host and Phoenix Business RadioX studio partner, Karen Nowicki, and I am very excited today to talk with you about Avalon Staffing, LLC. I have with me today John Zink, the president. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Karen. Nice to be with you.
Likewise. I'm excited about this conversation, and I showed you a photo of the studio. I'm sitting here by myself because we're doing this remote, not only because of the current quarantine, but also, John, you live in California, correct?
Yeah, I'm in Brentwood, California right now, outside of San Francisco, in between San Francisco and Silicon Valley and Sacramento, kind of smack dab in the middle. And then we have an office in Paradise Valley, and we have a lot of clients out there in the Phoenix area.
Love it. So get us caught up. Who is Avalon Staffing? And then we'll just have a conversation to get to know you guys better.
Well, Avalon Staffing is the parent company. Our IT staffing company is called IT Avalon. So most of our clients and folks working for us know us as IT Avalon. So company is about 8.5 years old. We just turned 8 years old in March. It was our anniversary date is easy to remember because it's St. Patrick's Day. My wife is actually the CEO of the company, and I'm the president. So we're a woman-owned business. And I've got about 24 years of experience in the IT recruiting business. And my wife has somewhere around 16 years of IT staffing experience, and more on the sales side. So we had talked for years about putting together our own company. We were working for other folks in the past, other companies in the past. We just had a dream to put together our own company, and here we sit with IT Avalon.
And 8 years, 8.5 already. Congratulations. That's huge. What is it like for the two of you to work together? It gels well?
Oh, it's great. I've had many of my friends are like, oh my God, don't work with your wife. That's going to be horrible. But we have a really good working and personal relationship, and we kind of try to keep the two of them separate. We have a really good relationship working. She's one of the best relationship people I've ever met in this business. So it was a pretty easy thing for us to put together a company. And then we started working out of our house. You know, I was working out of a bedroom in our house when we first moved to Brentwood, and then we moved into our first office, and then it's kind of all taken off from there.
Love hearing that. And you shared with me before we went on air today that in a prior life, you were a traveling musician. So I want to hear about that, but I also want to hear about your wife as well. Did she have a career prior to this? You mentioned she's excellent at sales and a relationship person, but was she always in this industry?
No, she started off with CA, Computer Associates, and that's where she started her career. Before she was in like retail sales, working at BB. Somebody discovered her there and said, wow, you seem like a really sociable person, and you might, have you ever considered going into sales? And that person worked at CA, so she got started there, and then she went into the staffing business after that.
Wonderful. Now, tell me about this traveling musician piece. How do you go from being a musician to an IT recruiter?
Dumb luck. Yeah, I was living in Minneapolis. I grew up in a very small town in Northwest Illinois, about 1,500 people. And then I went to, when I was traveling around there in bands, I'm a drummer and a singer, ended up in Minneapolis. Between delivering pizzas and playing in bands, I was making little to no money. And I decided that I should go out and find a real job. And I answered an ad in the paper to become a headhunter or an IT executive recruiter. I had no idea what either one of those things were, but it was 100% commission. So they hired me, because they didn't have to pay me until I actually did something. And I took to it like a duck to water. So it was something I really fell in love with. And like I said, it really was dumb luck. I had the opportunity to run into a couple of people who gave me a chance to succeed, which is something that I've found out. And through my career that I've had many, many people along the way that have given me a chance to really be sitting here talking to you today.
I love hearing that, because I would imagine the folks that you work with, there's got to be somebody in that line that wants somebody else to care for them that much that they want to see them succeed. Am I right? Like that's got to be, you mentioned your wife is a relationship person. Clearly you are as well. But I think that's got to transfer into what you do, knowing that made a difference for you in your career, and you can extend that to other people as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's really part of what IT Avalon is. Carissa, my wife, her and I talked about it sitting around a fire pit when we lived in San Ramon, California. So we should put together our own company. And what we wanted to do was take the best parts of all the companies we had worked for in the past and put those into a company and leave behind all of the bad parts that we saw. And that's really what we've created here at IT Avalon, is a place where people are treated right. Clients are given great customer service, and we're really looking to give people a chance to work at a good company, to build a great career, to build a great life for their families, have a good life, work-life balance, that kind of stuff. And that's really what we're striving for. We really want to take care of our clients first and foremost, but we really want to have a great company where people are proud to work at.
It sounds like you've achieved that, especially being around as long as you have. Tell me a little bit about the pivot that you all have had to make given the pandemic. How has that changed the landscape for recruiting and consulting, or has it?
Oh, big time. It's about 7 or 8 months ago, before COVID hit, I did a blog talking about remote work. And some of the research I had done showed that by 2024, over 50% of the workforce was going to be remote. And that's, 2024 is only 3 years away.
Yeah.
3.5 years away. So what happened was COVID, hit us right in the face. And now, there must be 75% of the people working remotely right now. All of the people who are working in offices, like our IT consultants, all of our clients, everybody's working remotely. So I think the landscape really changed and just went fast forward. What they were expecting to be 2024 is right now, right here, right now. And, it's a lot of forward thinking people were already going in that direction in the first place, because there's many, many very talented IT technologists that are really calling their own shots and saying, no, I choose to work from home. If you want me, this is what I'm going to do. And there's a lot of people who are just like, either they're not forward thinking enough to know that they can trust somebody to work from home, or it's just not the right setup for their company. And it's just kind of the way that everything was moving. The landscape got changed that much faster, where they just kind of have to move in that direction, whether they like to or not.
And you mentioned, again, before we went on air, you guys have been busier now than ever. I mean, IT, we are so heavily reliant on it right now, to your point around the quarantine. In addition to people working remotely now, and we have to just accept that, right? It's just, okay, this is the way we're doing it. All the interviews that we've been doing in all industries and verticals, we hear people say, we don't know that we'll ever open our doors again and have 150 to 300 people in our office. I drove by T-Mobile the other day. I took a different route to the studio, and I don't know what facility it was on behalf of T-Mobile, what department, but it was strange to me to see the parking lot cleared and closed, even though I have T-Mobile as my provider. And I know they're working from home because they're scrambling to try to, figure out what they're doing. Their service was excellent, but it's just changed so much. I'm fascinated by, let me back up. Who do you represent? Do you represent the companies that are looking for qualified candidates, and you also work with qualified candidates to make them a match? How does the whole matchmaking work when someone works with Avalon?
So with IT Avalon, what happens is we have large clients, enterprise clients who are looking for contractors to come in and work for them for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, somewhere around there, where it's a project-based professional service where we're going to come in and we're going to fill a position for them that's either going to be contract or contract to hire. So they don't want to hire a full-time person for it, either for liability reasons, or it's just a project-based thing where they know that they only need that person for a certain amount of time. So they look to IT Avalon to bring in folks that are software engineers, IT infrastructure folks, IT project managers, business analysts. There's so many different things that fall under IT. Mm-hmm. And we just help our clients to fill that void, if you will. And then a lot of the times they find that these people are, really awesome, and they'll then look to bring them on as a full-time. And it's a great thing because they get to try before they buy. Mm-hmm. And another great thing that we're finding is the candidate or the consultant gets to try before they buy into the company as well. So it's a nice thing where there's not a lot of commitment on either side. It's almost like dating. You don't want to get married right away, but it's almost like both of them are dating, and the consultant can see what the inside of that company is like, what that organization is like, what that manager is like, and vice versa. The manager gets to see everything about that candidate, and the organization gets to see everything about that candidate before they really make the commitment.
And the neat thing about having you guys kind of broker or facilitate those relationships is that you are the trusted source, right? You've done your due diligence. You know who you're working with on the contractor side. And so I would imagine, enterprise all the way down to the smaller companies that would need your services, all that's done for you as opposed to going out and starting scratch each time.
Exactly. So, like I said before at the beginning, the company is 8+ years old, but we have many people that I've worked with for 15, 16, 17 years. I know them. They know me. They know my family. We're friends. And let's just say somebody calls me up and say, hey, I need a Scrum Master, project manager who does X, Y, and Z. 5 names pop up in my mind. And we reach out to those people and say, hey, I've got this project over here. They need someone with your expertise. We go out and find those people right away. And, that's the way that our company works. We've got a lot of senior recruiters that work here at IT Avalon, and they all have their expertise and their little niche that they work within. And same thing. It's like somebody calls up and says, hey, we need a Java programmer full stack. Then I reach out to one of my recruiters that specializes in that, and, boom, a light bulb pops off with about 5 or 10 different names they can call in, see if those people are available. And that's really where our expertise is having those connections where we're not wasting our clients' time, because you can waste a lot of things. There's nothing more precious than time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You may have already answered this, but what separates a really solid staffing firm from the competition? I'm hearing what you represent, but is there any piece of that we didn't cover?
Great people. Our people are amazing, and some of the recruiters I've got on my staff, they always say to hire people that are better than you. I've got a whole bunch of people here. My wife, Carissa, and I have a whole bunch of people here who are better at a lot of things than we are. I've got a back office manager here who walked in here 5.5, 6 years ago, because at the time I was doing everything, right? Small business, I was doing invoicing, I was doing timesheets, I was recruiting, all these different things. And I had a filing system, but he walked in and I handed him everything, and he just had this confused look on his face, like, what am I supposed to do with this? But back office manager, HR manager, all these people that we've hired that have come in here and really made this company what it is are just amazing people. And then from the delivery side, our sales team, our recruiters, we all just work together to one common cause, which is making sure that we take great care of our clients and we take great care of our employees, our consultants, our talent, and take care of each other. The difference between IT Avalon or any great company is the way that they treat their people and the way that their people treat each other. And I think that's really what separates great companies from, the run-of-the-mill companies that just treat people like a number.
It's interesting with all the interviews we do here at Phoenix Business Radio, culture keeps coming up as the culture and people, right? The priority. We have, you and I were introduced through Deborah Hildebrand, I believe,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. And Deborah has her show, The Learnist, with us. And she was a guest of Joe Puz, who's a project management consultant. And in all the conversations we've had with those hosts, but everybody else, culture is everything and people. So you've got to have projects and you have to have the strategy and you have to have milestones and all those, deliverables to get the ROI and get where you need to go as a company. But when you're faulty, when it comes to people and culture, that's where the big problems take place, right? So it's great to hear that's the top priority for you guys and that you've made it a commitment to share that skill set with the companies and the recruits that you work with. Tell me about the best way for someone to find a job in today's market. I'm on LinkedIn, not often, but my goodness, especially now, so many people are out there hunting for jobs. What would you recommend is the best way for someone to find a job in today's market?
You got to stay connected. You and I talked for a few minutes before the interview started. You really have to stay intertwined with your connections. LinkedIn is a great tool. I've gotten myself off of most social media because I just kind of feel it's just a time waster for me. I also have a 2-year-old. He'll be 2 this Sunday at home. And it's like, I would find myself sitting here. I'm like, yeah. I had to get rid of it. Staying connected. We had talked about it before. Don't burn any bridges. It's like you have to be very careful out there. The IT industry, every industry is really kind of a small world, if you will. And if you go out and burn bridges, it travels like wildfire. If someone calls me up and wants to know about someone I worked with 15 years ago, it's very easy to find out who worked with who, off of LinkedIn, off of a resume, whatever it is. But just stay connected with people, even though it's a very big technical world out there. Everything still runs off of this, a conversation between 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. If you stay in contact with people and stay friendly with people, people want to help people. Just like I talked about before, the reason I got into this industry was because somebody liked me and wanted to help me. I walked into that first interview with a sweater on, no resume. I looked like an idiot probably. But there was something he liked in me and believed in me and gave me a chance to start in this business. There was no other reason except for he liked me. If you're a likable person, if you stay connected with people, and if you help other people out, then they're going to want to help you. So if you're looking for a job right now, you've got to make it a full-time job. So make finding a job your job. I tell people this all the time. I do a couple different talks about once a year to folks who are looking for jobs. It's kind of a networking group where these people are looking for jobs. I tell them all the time, you have to make it your full-time job finding a job. If you're sitting back waiting for people to contact you, you're going to be sitting there a long time. So I really, make it a priority for everybody to take the time during the day to make that 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever it is, finding a job. You can send your resume all kinds of different places on the internet, but for the most part, you really need to reach out to your connections and say, hey, help me out. I'm looking for this position. This is what I do. And people will react to it and try to help you if you ask them. If you don't ask them, you're never going to get anywhere.
And to your point earlier, staying connected, you don't want to pounce when the need is there and just all of a sudden reach out, right? I mean, how often does that happen? Oh, I haven't talked to you in 9 years, but by the way, I see that you've got an opening, or can you get me in front of so-and-so? I mean, you and I are probably happy to do that, but it's far easier to just stay connected, whether it's LinkedIn or a phone call or an email, whatever it is, so that when the need arises, you already position yourself authentically, right? To really ask for that hand up.
Yeah, exactly. Stay connected with people. So it's not like, like you said, you call somebody up for the first time in 10 years. They're like, how are the kids? Well, they moved out.
Right. Now I have grandkids.
What do you want?
Right. So the responsibility, of course, is on the applicant and the recruit for that matter to stay connected. But then where do consulting firms and staffing firms come in? Why are they needed?
Well, staying connected is also important with companies like ours. So staying connected with people who are connected is a very smart thing to do. I have multiple people who have worked for me on multiple different projects that call me up on a monthly basis just to say, hey, John, what's going on? And, squeaky wheel gets the grease. So I talk to those guys, and every time something comes up, they're the first person to come to my mind. So stay connected with everybody who has, a stake in the game. It's a very smart thing to do.
Yep. And we talked earlier about, obviously, the clout. I think that's not the word I used earlier, but just really the folks that you're in relationship with, they already know, like, and trust you. And by that, the extension reaches out to the people that you're helping to place. So it makes sense to build those relationships. We'll circle back to this at the end of our conversation as well, but I think it's appropriate right now for somebody who might be listening and they want to get in touch with IT Avalon or Avalon Overwell. What's the best way for them to do that? And does it just start with a conversation to see if they're a good fit for you, either enterprise-wise or as a recruit themselves? How does that conversation begin?
Sure. Easiest way to get a hold of me is my email is john@itavalon.com. Or my phone number is 925-659-8115. I can be reached anytime. We have offices, well, let me change it. We did have offices in Brentwood and Paradise Valley, but now we're completely 100% remote. All of our sales team, all of our recruiters, everybody is working remotely right now. We've got one small satellite office where our HR team is working out of. Everything else, we're just going remote. So COVID hit us right in the face too and said, oh, we don't have to have big offices anymore.
Right. Why do it? But
yeah, exactly. So go ahead.
I was going to ask, so working remotely, but are you primarily serving Arizona and California, or are you really placing anywhere?
We actually have folks working for us in Chicago, Illinois now, and then also up in Seattle, Washington, and Portland, Oregon. So we've got people on the ground in every one of those cities, and then we're also working right now with a couple of clients in Texas, and that's going to be the next market that we're moving into. We're looking to hire a salesperson and a recruiter in Dallas, Texas right now.
Very good. And if somebody's listening and they're interested in those opportunities, still your email address and phone number would be the best point of contact?
Yeah, for right now, I can get you in touch with the rest of the folks on my team. I wouldn't be the person that you'd be working with most of the time because I'm running the business. But what I can do is get you in touch with the right people who can give you the right service that you need to service the account.
Love it. Tell me, how does a staffing company continue to evolve? I mean, you sound like the kind of person who's reading, learning, staying up on it, staying in relationships, making those choices when things like COVID hit. But how does a staffing company stay ahead of the game? Is it those choices, or is there something else beyond that?
Well, we as a staffing company, it's a great question. We also stay connected with everybody that, is important to us.
Yeah.
We have every tool known to man, because tools right now in this industry are everything. Well, they're not everything, but they're a huge part of what we need. Everything to me is talking to people. The big thing that really separates great staffing companies from mediocre staffing companies is talking to people, getting to know the people who are working for you, getting to know the clients. I mean, that's where we really come in and make a difference for people, is really being an extension of our clients, really being an extension of our candidates. So everybody knows what they're dealing with. You know, I've worked at different companies before where it's pretty much just throw paper against the wall till something sticks. And that's not a good way to work. It's not a good way for the consultant. It's not a good way for the client, for anybody. So that's a lot of things are evolving as far as the different tools that are available now. You know, from when I started in 1996, when I was sitting at my desk calling on clients because I worked a full desk. So in the morning, I would make 50 calls and call on clients. And in the afternoon, whatever orders I got that morning, I'd be calling and recruiting people in the afternoon. We didn't have computers. I just had a pad of paper. And we had the Sunday want ads from the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. And all they did was circle, and then I would call. And that's how we did it. Then we had to talk people into faxing their resumes to us. So you had to talk someone into the fact that it was a good idea to go to the fax machine and fax their resume to you. You know, it was a great way to learn, because nowadays, if you have that kind of want and need to, you know, go out and change somebody's life by either having them come and work for you or go and take a different job, putting together that kind of mindset and that kind of tool set with the tools that are available today, it's a great place for us to be, you know, as a company, because I have a bunch of recruiters who have gone through that same kind of stuff that I went through. And it's pretty cool to see those people flourish in today's market.
Well, you mentioned a while back that time, you know, is a big piece of this. So with those tools and the right relationship, so much time can be saved, and you can serve and help that many more people. Yeah,
big time. We get to go out and you know, the applicant tracking system, the CRM, everything that we have, all the, you know, LinkedIn Recruiter, Dice, Monster. I mean, there's all these tools, and it's almost overwhelming for some people. So what we really do is bring all those tools into one aggregate, which is our applicant tracking system. And then we can bring it into one place where it's manageable. And then the recruiters that we have take over and go in and actually start calling and talking to people and building those relationships. The changing landscape is that there's so many tools out there. So that part of the business has changed big time. But in reality, what it really comes down to is where I came from, which was sit down, pick up the phone, make the calls, get to know people, build those relationships. And once you put those relationships together on the client side and on the consultant side, then you know who fits from a consultant side into the client side, and you can marry them together and really have a great partnership.
My 26-year-old has been looking for a job, not necessarily IT. He's more in the creative space, and he'll get frustrated that when he puts in an application and he doesn't hear back, that you know, that why is that? And I keep, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he hasn't done that part around staying in front of people and building those relationships, maybe even relying on a staffing or recruiting firm to help him. How important is as a resume and the actual application process? Or do you kind of help with that as you educate your recruits and get them placed?
It's really hard at the beginning for folks to figure out that they need to stay connected as well. They need to stay connected with the other people that they went to school with, people they've worked with in internships, whatever. Because a lot of ththose people that they've been in contact with prior either have jobs or have connections somewhere. As a recruiting company or as a staffing company or as a professional services company, we don't ever except for internally, hire junior people. The technologists that we hire are people that have 5, 10, 15, 20 years of experience. Mm-hmm. You know, our clients pay us to find subject matter experts. So what I tell people, and I do it all the time at some of these talks that I give, is that you really need to take it upon yourself to get out there and get outside of your comfort zone. And that's something that's big for the younger generations right now, because they've had their cell phones, their smartphones, they're sitting playing video games where they're on something like this, talking to their friends. They don't really have to get out there and talk to people much. And it's really hard for them to do that. The people who can do that will flourish.
Yes.
And it's really hard for them to get it through their head that they have to go do it, because they've been, I'm not going to say coddled, but they've been catered to for their whole life with these different tools that they're used to using. And many times, one of our clients that's hiring for a full-time position, they'll open that position up on LinkedIn or on their website or wherever, and there's so many resumes coming into that one position. They can't handle it. It's going into what I call a black hole, because someone like your son will send their resume in and it'll just sit there, and they're like, well, I'm a great fit for this, I think. Well, so are the other 200 people.
Yep.
So it's really hard for them to manage to get through all those resumes. So the biggest thing that they can do is reach out to their contacts and say, hey, I'm really interested in working with you. How do I get in there? And just show that extra little bit of gumption, and they can get in there and really try to make a difference for themselves in their career. But sitting back and waiting is just the wrong way to go.
You mentioned that you and Carissa have a 2-year-old. I have a 13-year-old, as well as 2 kiddos in their 20s. They're out of the house. And during this quarantine time, and we're here in Arizona, so the summer is ridiculously hot, and we're staying indoors. Talk about the phone and the gaming system and being on the computer. And at 13, this is a really important age for me to keep pressing upon him exactly what you've just shared. Like, look, you need to stay on top of your skill set in communicating with people and finding interest outside of technology. He wants to be an engineer. I think that's wonderful. And I think it's great that he loves to play his, Fortnite or whatever the games are. But at the same time, especially now, I need him to stay on top of his eyeball-to-eyeball opportunities with people and practice those conversations that don't require a headset and a microphone. I'm curious. It'll be interesting to see, when 6-10 years from now, when my son, my 13-year-old, is looking for a job, and then of course your young kiddo, when they're adults, especially since this COVID thing has just shifted so much so quickly. To your point, like, okay, we knew we were going remote, 2024, but then COVID hit, and now we're like, bam, we're already doing it. We're having to kind of relook at how we are living life, how we're communicating. I'm grateful for Zoom, of course, and I think Zoom has positioned itself very well among other companies to make sure that we can still, have this heart-to-heart connection and not just be on the phone. I can't even imagine what life is going to be like for us years from now, but technology is going to continue to stay ahead of us and help us navigate where we're headed. Yeah, I'm just...
Well, just imagine, having this phone that has more power than a computer had 10 years ago. And, I talked to Carissa about when I first moved to California, I was going for a job interview. And I remember printing out the maps from MapQuest,
right.
And I remember down in Fremont, California, whoever the bright person was, that there's 2 different mission streets on there, and I took the first mission instead of the second mission. That would never happen today, because your phone or your car just tells you where to go. That's only 10 short years ago. And to imagine today, it's pretty much turned us into cyborgs, where my phone or my car just tells me where to go. I don't have to think about it. Another funny observation is I remember my grandmother's phone number from back when I was growing up as a kid. I don't know anybody's phone number today. It's ridiculous how the tools that we have today have just made our lives so much easier. But at the same time, it's also losing some of the learning experiences that we had to memorize some of those things. You talked about reading earlier. I don't read anything. I have audiobooks. Luckily, Audible is around to help me out because I had a bit of a learning disability as a kid, and just I couldn't remember what I read on a page ago.
Yeah, me too.
And Audible is one of those things where I can sit on a plane or sit in my backyard or something and listen to all these amazing authors out there and, learn all these different things that I just wouldn't have had a chance to before because I couldn't. But now, because of the tools that we have, I get to enjoy everything, that some of my favorite authors are putting out.
What's something that you have read lately that you would recommend? Fiction, nonfiction, business related? What are you reading or listening to? I should say.
I love what somebody else is reading to me. I love the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. It gets me motivated. I've a friend of mine who's a consultant that's worked for me for like 3 or 4 different projects. So he comes up, he calls me Jay-Z. He goes, Jay-Z, I got this book you've got to read. And it was the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. And I've probably read it through Audible 5 or 6 different times. It's just one of those things that gets me so motivated. And, that's kind of how I started this company, was off of the 10X Rule. And the 10X Rule pretty much is, if you want to survive in today's business, you have to do 10 times as much than your competitor. And, that's what I tell all the people that work here. It's like, another thing out of that book is it's your duty and obligation to be successful, for you, for your company, for your family, for your kids, for everybody. There's really there's no time to be a victim. You have to make your own way and just persevere through life. And that's kind of what that book really talks about. So the book's a little bit older. There's some other stuff that I'm going through right now. There's Neil Peart, one of my favorite drummers from the band Rush. There's one of his books called Ghost Rider. But there's just so much stuff out there. But the 10X Rule is my number one book that I go to for business motivation.
Love that. Who inspires you? Is there a mentor or someone in your life, or someone that's just at a distance that you look up to? You seem like a very motivated individual and certainly inspirational yourself. But who has influenced your life?
A few different people. My mother, she's amazing. She worked in a factory in Illinois for 35 years. She married when I was about a year and a half old, and my dad, Rich Zink, adopted me. But my mom was really that central figure that was everything, just raised me up. And the only reason I'm sitting here today is because of my mom. So my mom and then my wife's mother, those are 2 of the strongest women I know. Just kind of the reason that Carissa and I have a great life today is because of those 2 women. There's been many people, many guys, but it's like it always comes back to my mom and my wife's mom. Those are the 2 central people in our lives that really gave us everything that we've got today.
And are they both in the California area?
No, my mom's back in that little town in Illinois where I grew up. She's a central figure in there. She's retired now, but works at the food bank, helping people out. She works at the museum back there. She gives. She's a giver.
Awesome.
And she's just an awesome lady. And then my wife's mom, my mother-in-law, lives here in the Bay Area. She's lucky enough to get to see Johnny, our little boy, every month or so. Even through this COVID stuff, we've had to try to get her because she goes into withdrawals.
I bet she does. Yeah.
My mom's dying to see him, though. She hasn't seen Johnny since January. So we're trying to look into getting an RV so we can go out to Illinois and see my mom.
Nice. So nice. Well, it's been a pleasure to get to know you. What have I not thought to ask? Is there anything that you want to tell us about IT Avalon or the industry itself that I hadn't thought to ask?
I don't think so. IT Avalon's we're a good company. We enjoy fixing problems. That's really what this industry is all about, is someone has a void they need filled with some amazing piece of talent. And that's what we do. We go out and we either have or find the best talent to go in and help stop the bleeding, if you will. that's really what we do.
Great. We have a lot of connections here at Phoenix Business RadioX, which I'm always listening when I'm meeting somebody new. Who can I connect you with? I'd love to connect you with Steve Zylstra, who is the president of Arizona Tech Council. If you're not already connected with them, we do their show once a month here at the studio, and I'm lucky enough to co-host with Steve. And then Career Connectors. I think you'd be a great speaker at Career Connectors. I believe they are Arizona specific, but they do a phenomenal job helping people who are out of work, get them in front of different companies as well as individuals like yourself who can inspire and motivate them to land that next gig. So I'll make that introduction as well. And then I mentioned Joe Puz, Deborah Hildebrand's friend, and Joe, he is a project management consultant, but has spent a lot of time in IT. And if there's something that he and his team can't manage, it might be great for him to get to know you. So I'll make sure I make those connections. Those are the ones that just come.
I'm definitely connected with Joe on LinkedIn and Deborah. Oh, yeah, good. So I follow Joe and all of his PM work on his show. And then we're also working with Deborah and some of the other folks with the VPMMA.
Yeah. Oh, very good.
And we're actually, IT Avalon's going to be the sponsor for the first golf tournament. If it happens, I don't know if it's going to happen or not with COVID, but we're looking forward to that first inaugural event.
Very good. Oh, it's great to know that you're involved. And I think I do remember when you and I did a pre-call, you had mentioned that you were involved and appreciative of the work that VPMMA does. So very good. What other connections are important to Avalon? So because our listeners are, from all different industries and all around, in order for you to continue to grow and serve your clientele, who are you always looking to connect with? How can we help you with that?
We're looking to connect with hiring managers at mid to large size companies. Anybody who is looking for contract to hire talent. Like I said before, software engineers, IT infrastructure folks, PMO talent, business analysts, and anybody that has anything to do with the wide scope that is IT. That's really what we do. We don't do anything as far as like lower level help desk, things like that. We're really higher level subject matter experts around IT, software engineering, and PMO.
Great. All right. And tell our listening audience one more time where they can find you and Avalon Staffing and IT Avalon. What's the best way to get in front of you guys and start that conversation?
You can check out our website at itavalon.com. You can email me anytime at John, John, at itavalon.com. And then my phone number again is 925-659-8115.
Awesome. Thank you again so much for being with me. We've got to spend time today with John Zink, president of Avalon Staffing, LLC, otherwise known as IT Avalon. And we do encourage you to stay in touch and get connected. You've been listening to Phoenix Business RadioX, broadcasting live from within the Max 6 Conscious Workspace studio. Some media leans left, some lean right, and we lean business. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki. Thanks for listening.